It's the best time of year. Here we are, WWDC. As you can see, June 8th through the 12th, just a couple days away. And this year's big rumor is finally the revamped Siri. And I think by now, all of our expectations are, pretty dampened, maybe a little low. So I'm hoping they come out and blow us away. I'm always the hopeful. Maybe I'll be very disappointed, but I'm hoping they pull through. I'm actually going to be out there this year. I didn't get a ticket to the keynote, but I am flying out there for the whole week, and I'll be doing a bunch of the various community events all week. So if you see me, definitely come say hi, say what's up. I'd love to meet you. And one place for sure I know I'm going to be is the Bitrig Hackathon. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. As you can see, it is at the Y Combinator Mountain View offices. It is sponsored by Y Combinator and OpenAI. And there's some, I would argue life-changing prizes maybe. So it's 20,000 worth of OpenAI credits, and that's going to be split between, first, second, and third place, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I am not the official rule maker, but I believe that's what's going to happen. And if you win, a guaranteed interview with Y Combinator and a spot at YC Startup School. So like I said, if you win this thing, it could change your life. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I don't think that's a stretch. And there's an awesome panel of judges, people from OpenAI, the SwiftUI team at Apple, and so much more. And you get to hack on the latest APIs that were just announced at WWDC. So what's more fun than that? I'll be at the registration table, so if you're coming, you'll see me, I'll sign you in, and then you'll go and I'll be wandering around, checking out what you're building throughout the day. And if you missed my last video, I just joined the Bitrig team. So what Bitrig is, it's a Mac app that builds native Swift apps for the Apple platforms using AI. To put it very simply, imagine like a Codex or a Claude Code that was built from the ground up to specialize in native Swift apps, high quality, premium, native, first-party Apple platforms, like that whole idea. It's built specifically for that. So if you want to download it and check it out, go to bitrig.com. And if you need some inspiration for that hackathon project, or just whatever project you're working on in general, Apple has announced the 2026 Apple Design Award winners. And I feature this article every year, and I say the same thing every year. If you are trying to build the best high quality app that you can for the Apple platforms, go download all these apps, play with them, see what makes them special and why they got an Apple Design Award, and take inspiration from that and see what you can implement into your apps. And they're broken down into various categories. So this first one is delight and fun. So you can see this UI. Maybe don't copy this one. I'm not saying it's bad, but it got the delight and fun because it's unique, it's different. But if you keep scrolling down, and a lot of these are games, and I know most of you aren't game developers, so I'm gonna kind of skim over those pretty quickly, but this one for inclusivity, right? If you're trying to improve the accessibility of your app, maybe download Guitar Wiz, check out what it's doing with dynamic type, increase contrast, differentiate without color, play around with those settings, see how the app reacts, and then again, take inspiration, see how they handled it, and see if you can implement that into your app. And there's two more I wanna highlight. Again, there's a lot of games. Innovation, yeah, the NBA Vision Pro app is sick. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but it looks awesome. But interactions. So all of our apps have different interactions. Winners in this category deliver intuitive interfaces and effortless controls that are perfectly tailored to their platform. So the app's called Moonlit. Download it, play around with it. Pay attention to the interactions because that's why it got an Apple Design Award. And then one last example, again, scrolling past some of the games, is the visuals and graphics. Again, winners in this category feature beautiful imagery, skillfully drawn interfaces, and top-notch animations in a unique cohesive theme. So the app is Tide Guide, Charts and Tables. As you can see, just a bunch of charts, tables, with various tides. And this kind of UI is not super uncommon in apps. So again, download it, play with it, see what they're doing with their animations, because obviously that won them an Apple Design Award. So yeah, like I said, download the apps, play with them, take inspiration for your own apps. Moving on, the Swift Mentorship program is now open, and this is for those of you that have been wanting to contribute to Apple's open source projects. I mean, Swift language itself is open source, but maybe you've never done open source and you're intimidated or you're scared and you don't even know where to start. Well, that's exactly what this program is for. So it says, each mentee will have the opportunity to connect with and learn from an experienced developer within the Swift community, with the goal of contributing code directly to an open source project. So that's the whole point. The whole point is to help brand new people get over that fear and intimidation and start contributing to the open source projects that Apple has. So here's the current timeline. Now, we're a little late, so if you want to be a mentor, which that's probably a lesser number, that interest survey deadline was June 1st. That has already passed. Sorry I didn't feature it sooner. However, if you are a mentee, you're the one that wants to learn how to do all this stuff. That interest survey deadline is June 15th. So you got about 10 more days to get that in if you're watching this when it comes out. And then on June 29th, the pairings will be announced. And then on July 6th, your 10-week cohort begins. And if you're interested in the survey, click this link down here. And by the way, as always, links to all the articles I'm featuring here are in the Swift News GitHub repo. Go there, look at all the past episode links, click on what you want, explore around. And then finally, there's some frequently asked questions, right? How are the mentor-mentees pairs selected? Are there qualifications? What should I expect from my mentor? And you can obviously expand all these. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm showing you some of the questions that are answered. So yes, if you've been wanting to learn how to contribute to the open source projects Apple has, this is the perfect program for you. Next up, we got an article from Mario here, thoughts on slowing the F down. Now, we're a family-friendly show here, and this article does have some vulgarities in it, so I'm gonna give you just the big picture bullet points. I really recommend diving in if you're working with agents, because it really talks about how maybe we've taken this agent thing too far in the beginning. We all got a little addicted to it. We all outsourced our thinking a little too much. So it talks about that and then kind of reels it back in on how we should be working with agents. So, you know, the first section, again, I'm just giving you the high point overviews. Go to the article, read it for yourself if you really want to dive in. But basically everything is broken. Like I said, so many companies are like bragging about how much of their code is written with agents. And it's like, oh yeah, it all sucks now. We get it. We see, we know. It's kind of what he was saying here. You know, there's a lot of sites that aren't having as much uptime. Like sites that used to never go down are now going down quite often. And it's just, you can kind of tell that software as a whole has really taken a quality hit lately. And it really aligns with a lot of companies really leading into these agents. So how we should not work with agents and why. And here's a good opening line here. We have basically given up all discipline and agency for sort of addiction. Right? We've all been there, that agent slot machine. You give it a prompt and sometimes you're like, wow, I can't believe it one-shot this. And then other times, you know, maybe not so much, but it's like a slot machine. And it's our incentives are messed up is the point here. Your highest goal is to produce the largest amount of code in the shortest amount of time. Like consequences be damned. So we're so obsessed with like how much we can build now and how much we can do. And I've fallen victim to this as well. You're like, oh wow, I can do this whole feature in 20 minutes rather than spending a whole day on it. And you're just kind of like, I'm just not gonna like look at the code, or I'm gonna just, I think it's good, I pretend to understand it. It looks good on the surface, but I didn't do the deep dive to really find out what's going on. Like I think we've all been there when working with agents. And that just leads to over time, just bad things piling up over time. He calls them compounding boo-boos. Because the problem is like, yeah, the agents, they make mistakes, they make errors. And he says, well, humans make errors, so that's fine. But it's different because like humans are the bottleneck. A human can only make so many errors, right? There's only so many hours in the day. You can only make so many errors as a human. Whereas spawning a bunch of agents, you can imagine the amount of errors that can pile up very rapidly, like infinitely more than a human could do. And he also brings up the point that when a human makes an error, humans feel pain. Like humans will feel that pain of an error a couple times and then they'll fix it. Whereas agents don't learn that on their own. Like, yeah, you can teach them how their agents MD file and all that stuff, but it requires more effort for you to like understand all that. But the big point is, again, between humans feeling pain and just humans not being able to go nearly as fast as agents, you kind of limit the damage. Whereas if you just let the agents run amok, the damage just gets out of control. And before you know it, like your code base is a mess, you have no idea what's going on, and you have no idea how to fix it. You're just at the mercy of, I hope the next model can fix it, or as these agents improve, I hope they can go through and fix it. And it's a scary place to be. So let's go down. Okay, it's all doom and gloom. Okay, how can we work with agents, right? How should you work with agents for now? And I like this opening paragraph too. Coding agents are sirens, luring you in with their speed of code generation and jagged intelligence, often completing a simple task with high quality at breakneck velocity. Things start falling apart when you think, oh golly, this thing is great. Just do all my work for my computer, right? If it could do this simple thing, it must be able to do more. And you keep trying to push it, and then again, it just falls apart. So what is the better way to work with agents? It says there's nothing wrong with delegating tasks, of course, but good agent tasks share a few properties. They can be narrow in scope, so the agent doesn't need to understand your entire app. So keep the scope narrow, keep the context small. The loop can be closed. That is, the agent has a way to evaluate its own work. It can run a test or it can do something, and it's very definitive if they did it correctly or not. The output isn't mission critical, right? It's just some tool or internal piece of software, right? Nobody's life or revenue depends on it. And this made me think of like my new favorite way. I actually just started doing this a little bit ago. Like my favorite way to use codecs in SwiftUI is for SwiftUI previews. Now, we've all been there. If your screen, and not just like a component view, like a full screen, gets pretty complex, the SwiftUI preview is just kind of a mess to keep up with, and I just kind of like stopped using them. But now with codecs, I can be like, hey codecs, build me a SwiftUI preview for this view, build all kinds of mock data, give me 8 different states. Show it to me in light mode, show it to me in dark mode, show it to me in high dynamic type settings, show it to me with this modal popped up, show it to me with this air state, show it to me with an empty state. Your preview can have like 10 different states, and that is a great thing for like Codex to do. That all might take you so long to build yourself, but yeah, Codex can just do it. And the thing, it is not a like mission critical piece. So that kind of work is awesome for agents. And I found myself really leaning into that specific example in my code bases. And then lastly, or you just need to rubber duck or bounce ideas against it. And it's really good for that. Like I found myself doing in plan mode, hey, I have this idea for a feature, and I'll do like, come up with like 3 different plans or 3 different ideas for how to iterate this, or you just basically ask for like different ways. And sometimes I might be like, oh, well, that's a silly idea. I don't like that at all. Other times I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. That's really cool. And I may not implement it exactly how it's said, but I'll take elements of that idea. You kind of like take elements of all the ideas I got and kind of build your own thing from it. So yeah, just brainstorming, rubber ducking, it's great for that. All right, so that's some tips on working with agents. But yeah, highly encourage you to read this article. And it's easier said than done, right? But yeah, like slow down. Like we're not in this race. It's very easy to just send all these agents off on 6 different projects and you feel so productive. And it's like, are you being productive? I think we're starting to realize that like maybe we're not being as productive as we think we are with these agents. So it's just, it's a good thing to think about. Up next, we have Talking Liquid Glass with Apple from Danny here, Captain SwiftUI. And Danny went to Let's Talk Liquid Glass, new design workshop at Apple's offices in New York City. It was 3 days, 9 to 5. All you did was sit with the Apple developers relations team and design evangelist and just talk about liquid glass. So in this article, he shares a few of his key learnings. I'm gonna kind of skim through these. So the universal lesson 1, the ship has sailed. Liquid glass is permanent. And basically saying that and I remember hearing this, when liquid glass first launched, right, a lot of people hated it. And there's a sentiment going around the internet, right, our little tech bubble, that, oh, Apple's going to revert it. Like it just wait a little bit, they're gonna go back to flat design, they're not gonna stick with this. And I haven't like heard that so much as of late, but I do remember hearing that maybe in the first like month or so. But Danny brought that up with the team, genuine shock. They're actually concerned that developers had that. Basically, they made it emphatically clear, liquid glass is absolutely moving forward, it's evolving, it is here to stay. I'm not gonna linger on this too long because I don't think too many people believe this anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just don't hear it in my bubble, but I think that sentiment has kind of moved on. So we'll move on to lesson 2. Hierarchy is the anchor. Content is king, controls are the servants. So they actually really hammer this home at the WWDC 25 videos if you watch them. That you should think of your screens and your UI as 2 layers. There's the content layer, and then there's the control layer. The control layer being things like your toolbar buttons, your tab bar. It's like any button on there. So just think of it as 2 distinct layers. Again, the content is king. He says, here's the harsh truth, designers and developers struggle to accept. Nobody opens your app to admire your custom buttons. Basically, like have your UI just like get out of the way. Let your content shine. Have your buttons and stuff just get out of the way. Put them in the toolbars. Have them be glass. Don't make them crazy custom. Is kind of the idea here. The controls serve the content. The content is king. All right, lesson 3, the great reset. And this one, I like this one a lot because what they were saying is that, hey, anytime you do this radical change in UI, like version 1.0, you just got to make sure like it works. Got to keep it basic, can't go too crazy with any customizations or all kinds of crazy stuff. Like if you remember, like iOS 7 came out 2013. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I think. Regardless, we had like 10 years of like honing and modifying that design system. But we're living through a reset right now. We're back to version 1. You have to ensure the foundation is solid. It has to be functional. It like has to work. So you have to keep things pretty basic. Besides, this is where it gets exciting. The team was visibly enthusiastic about what is in store for WWDC 26, which is a couple days away. They wouldn't drop any spoilers, of course, but got the strong impression that this upcoming cycle is where liquid glass takes its first massive step into maturity. So here's hoping to see a lot of cool new liquid glass stuff. And the rest of the article is not liquid glass related, just SwiftUI best practices. You can check it out again, but I wanted to focus on that liquid glass stuff, specifically the idea that liquid glass takes a big step here in a couple days. So I'm excited for that. And lastly, we have new analytics in App Store Connect. Now this was actually announced at WWDC 2025. So this may be old news to you, but if you forgot about it, no one can blame you because they were supposed to launch it by the end of last year. However, I think it just came out like a month ago. So it was pretty delayed. People kind of forgot about it, but it is here now. If you go to App Store Connect, you get a new analytics tab in each app. The big difference is this analytics tab that you see right here was up top here in the apps and the trends, and they moved it down here to app specific. And the big thing, you get 100 new metrics, new cohort capabilities, peer benchmarks, subscription reports, like all kinds of, again, 100 new metrics that you can see about your app. And I'm going to keep scrolling down towards like some pictures here so you can see like the cohort. Like there's retention by cohort, right? So here's your retention chart: day 1, day 6, day 12. Monetization and business performance. Well, here's the WWDC session where they like announced it. But again, it just came out like a year later, just in time before the next year's WW. But yeah, anyway, a whole bunch of new metrics, new in App Store Connect. So if you have an app and you haven't really dove into those analytics yet, again, it just came out roughly a month ago. But yeah, it's available now, so go check it out. All right, that wraps it up for this episode of Swift News. We'll see you in the next one after WW when hopefully there's a lot more to talk about.